All right, we are starting any moment now. Please just bear with us. All right, we are starting any moment now. Please just bear with us. All right. Um, well, I believe we can start. Um, and others will join us so that, like we said last week, so we don't, waste the time of those who have joined on time. So I'd like to welcome you all to the Smart Leader Live Q&A session for today, Saturday, 29th of October it is. Um, and well, we do have regular members today. It appears that the network may be playing a fast one on us. I see that one or two people have dropped out. Mrs. Williams, earlier on, I can't see her on the radar again, but hopefully she will join us when she reconnects. I believe others will join us as we proceed. All right, so this is Smart Leader Live. This is a session for discussing the all important subject of leadership. It's an opportunity for us to interact and to share perspectives, to share ideas, to examine leadership issues and challenges, and also to answer questions that anyone participating may want to ask. It's also is an integral part of our Smart Leader program, which is the 30-day leadership development program that is specifically designed to make smart learners into smart leaders and to make smart leaders into smarter leaders. And we've had a couple of people attend the sessions. So if you are participating in the session, you have the live Q&A session, which is this. It holds every Saturday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. West African time. And so while we have participants on that program, this live session is to give the opportunity of an interaction between my good self as the facilitator and everyone, who is participating on that program. It's an opportunity to seek clarification on different aspects of the program, whatever point in the program they may be. So typically in the 30-day program, participants would have an opportunity to interact with me at least 4 times over the course of that program. But more importantly, the access to this program goes beyond the 30-day Smart Leader program, because it's open to them to attend, before the program if they knew about it, during the program, and indeed after they must have completed the program. And there are people on the platform who have completed the program, but they've been regular, joining us every Saturday. All right. Last week, I believe Dr. Akoji had an issue that was, put before us. And if I remember that issue correctly, I think it goes like this. She was, I believe, thinking aloud or puzzled or trying to draw attention to the fact that there was a time, in years past, that we had some credible leaders, or so it would appear. But, what has happened? Where are the so-called successors of those leaders? Why are we having the kinds of leadership challenges that we're having today, especially at the national level? Now, that raises the point that is it possible for you to have credible leaders, who did well in their time, who produced some successors, especially if we use the fact that they produce successors as one of the indices for measuring the success of the leader, and what has happened ever since. All right, the premise for that kind of thinking is that, isn't it the case that when leaders produce successors, when we regard them as having done well, when we refer to great leaders, that we expect that things will get better, after they have left, and that that movement from good to better will lead from better to best, so to speak. That is, there will be a continuous improvement. But if we look at where we are today, especially in Nigeria, that doesn't appear to hold true, because we had years back, we had the days of the Awolowos, we had the days of the Zeeks, and they are regarded, as great leaders. They are regarded as people who made, very concrete contributions, and presumably people who also had, successors who were able to groom people that could carry forward their thinking, and could basically improve on what they had accomplished during their time. Now, that's very interesting. And there are a number of reasons why a situation like that could arise. Ordinarily, when a leader succeeds, we say that a leader is successful when he or she produces a successor. However, it's not just producing a successor, it is producing a successor who is able to at least replicate what the leader has done, who is able to carry forward and sustain, the positive impact that the leader had, created. And indeed, one who is able to accomplish greater things, better results, make greater impact, build upon what the leader accomplished or what the leader started out, during his or her own tenure. that those are clear indices of success on the part of a leader. But while it is true that we expect such successors to carry on the legacy, to do better, than their leaders, I want to draw attention to a number of factors that can undermine the successor leaders and prevent them from sustaining the pattern that their leaders had set in motion. One of the easiest points to draw attention to is the trap, what I call the trap of success. And what is the trap of success? The trap of success is pride. Is pride. Now, everyone who is successful, indeed in anything, everyone who is regarded as successful in any endeavor, one of the things that they must be mindful of is pride. Because success breeds pride. And it takes maturity to be able to handle the trap of pride. It takes being watchful to know that pride is creeping in, because pride tends to creep in. And the truth is that each one has to deal with that trap, by himself or by herself. Yes, a leader is expected to have helped the successor to develop, strong character. But everybody knows that character is not something that you form and that's it. And then you never tend it and you just expect to live accordingly. No, character doesn't work like that. Okay, you have to keep developing. You have to keep working at strengthening those positive attributes that we define as character attributes. Because there are challenges along the way. There are temptations along the way. There is the temptation that you face about the use of power. There are challenges that you face with the use of privileges. Okay? And then, of course, there is also the whole issue of what I would call the strength of faith or confidence. Okay, so if a successor carries on with the work of the leader and continues to do well, the successor too must beware of pride. What has happened with many is that they lost it because they couldn't handle the pride that came with their success. And there are many instances of people, and you may know that there are people that we have come across that as a result of their successes, they have gotten swollen-headed. As a result of their successes, people we knew, who were well-behaved, who were, performers, who were high flyers, who we all respected, they lost, their shirt, as it were, because they couldn't handle their success. They couldn't handle the pride that came with success. So, pride is a big issue. Pride is a big issue. When you are successful, you must beware. And I believe a lot of those who ought to have been like, to have showcased the success of their leaders have accomplished things, but they fell to pride. They fell to pride. If I may, and this is just my view. If we look at Lagos State, for example, you may remember that there was one governor who did not stay for 2 terms, which was abnormal. At the end of his first term, one thing led to the other. So much euphoria, so much furor within his party, and they failed to return him for a second term. One of the things we understood was that he got very swollen-headed, became very proud, and a catalog of things that we could talk about, but that I think this is not, the season for that. So instead of him having been a product of previous regimes, of people that were acknowledged that, yes, they did well, they created, they made an impact, all right? His own regime or tenure was truncated prematurely. He wasn't allowed to do a second term because of pride. And when you look at his achievements, you can't really compare them with what the achievements of those who had been before him, had accomplished. So there is the issue of pride. The second issue, of course, is the issue of that I talked about, the misuse of power. Again, these are some of the things that happens when you are effective as a leader. When your leader has succeeded in replicating, his capacity in you as a successor, when you carry on, the truth is that while successful leaders may not show it, they are often powerful leaders as a result of their successes. So we find, for example, that their successors also walk into, a realm of power that they had not tasted before. The truth about succession is that, yes, you can be prepared as a successor, but the fullness of what leadership entails, you will only be exposed to when you take full responsibility. So, assuming I'm the governor, I'm the CEO, if I'm preparing people to take over from me, no matter what exposure I give them, no matter how much I delegate to them, what they would have is a taste of what I am facing. At best, it will be just a part of the totality of what I'm facing. The reality of what I face on a day-to-day basis, among which is how I handle power, they would only face when they step into my shoes, or when they step into similar shoes, maybe in different organizations. All right? So at that point also, push comes to shove. At that point, they will face the test of how to handle power, because at that point, the buck will stop at their table. And so again, there is the temptation that comes with power. We all know what they say, that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Of course, if you have delegated well, if you have managed that aspect of your leadership well, you would have prepared your people, to a reasonable extent to be able to do that. But then we still have people who may not be able to handle, the reality of power. And if the pressures are much, if the circumstances allow, they can fall into abuse of power. And ultimately, abuse of power will undermine their ability to sustain performance. Abuse of power may ultimately lead to them losing their shirt. The same thing with privileges. Because when you're a leader, like it or not, with all the talk about, sacrifice as a leader, you still enjoy certain privileges. But just like with power, you have to be watchful. You have to be watchful because you can lose it on account of those privileges if you don't know how to manage them, well. So it is very possible that leaders prepare successors, but in the course of the regime or the tenure of the successors, they lose it at some point. They will lose it if they are not watchful and they don't continue to nurture their character. They will lose it if they can't manage power, and especially if there are developments, circumstantial developments, all right, that make them feel bigger than they actually are. And the reality, of course, of having the buck stop on their table, can also push them into that kind of, of situation where they lose track and they lose ground, and they lose relevance. And then they don't have, quality successors to carry on whatever it was that they got from their own leaders. And then, of course, the issues of, privilege, abuse of privilege is also a problem for them. Abuse of privilege is also a problem. Now, there's something that I've just remembered now. If you look in the context of an organization, there is also an important factor. There is the factor of office politics. Okay? The factor of office politics is a play of power within an organization. So suppose that I am a divisional head or a group head or a departmental head, and I've actually nurtured people, and I was able to develop people who could take over from me or who could go on to other departments, and hold their own and, and do well as leaders. Now, they may have been prepared to function well as leaders, but they may not be politically intelligent. They may not be politically savvy enough. And so it is possible that there are dislocations or developments within the organization, all right, that affects them. Not because they are not good leaders, not because they couldn't have done well running their shop, but because the dynamics of politics, the political dynamics within the organization simply worked against them. And if that happens, and maybe, for example, they are out of the organization, then there is no way for them to showcase at least those leadership abilities within the context of their immediate organization. They, of course, they still have the the ability to lead, but that would have to be, you know, put to use somewhere else. And if they are not in places that are, obvious or as strategic as um, the units or the departments or even the organizations they were heading before, we may never have an opportunity to hear about the good work that they are doing. Um, and so it is possible that there are people who also were prepared, benefited from the leadership of the likes of Awolowo, who may not be in the political sphere, where Awolowo was prominent, but they may be in business, they may be in other sectors, and they may be doing well there. Certainly, there are a lot of people, who have what it takes to lead, but they are not in politics. And so we don't hear about them. And it's not as if they are not doing well. And so it's also not as if their leaders failed. It's just that the people that they produced did not continue in the political sphere where those leaders, were prominent. And that could be for different reasons. That could be for a lot of reasons. Okay, let me stop there. What I've been trying to do is to start us out with a question that Dr. Akonji raised last week, which was trying to get us to think through what could make successors, what could truncate the impact of the good work that great leaders do, after they have left their seat. Another way to put it is that why is it that we have had some great leaders in the past, the Awolowos of this world, the Zeeks of this world, and suddenly it looks like we're not seeing the impact of all the work that they did. Did they not leave, successors? Where are the successors? Why are the successors not doing greater things, like their leaders did? And that's what we have been trying to address. That's the question that I started out with and been trying to draw attention to a couple of reasons that could be the case. One is to say that you have to watch pride because success has a trap. The more successful, the greater the temptation to fall into pride. And when pride comes, it spoils everything. Pride always spoils everything. It truncates any good work that anybody has done. Number two is you have to watch the use of power. That no matter how well you prepare a successor, they will not get the full taste of power until they are in control, until the buck actually stops at their table. And many people lose it, okay, when they taste the raw power. And then there are privileges, as well. And then there are circumstantial developments, and then of course there's the fact that the leaders may be there and they may still be doing great work, but maybe not in the area where they had worked with their bosses or with their leaders. And just like there are people who may have followed Zeke, but they are still doing good job of leading in other areas, but they are no longer in the political sphere. They may be in business and stuff like that. All right, so we can have contributions from the house. That's from my side. I don't know who else. I see what Kenneth is saying here. in the chat, the lack of continuity by the successor, even when the predecessor legacy is not worthy of following, can it be seen as pride? Okay, I think what you mean, Kenneth, is that let me put it differently. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Is that there is a possibility that you are a successor, but you are a successor in the sense that you took over from your boss or from your leader, um, in the sense that you took over responsibility from him, but not that you feel he impacted anything or imparted anything to you, concretely. For example, that there are things that your leader was known for, but you don't want to continue because you didn't buy those things from him. You didn't, there are things you didn't fancy, or you weren't excited about the way your leader, you know, conducted his affairs, maybe a certain area, or maybe for the most part, but you still were part of his team anyway. So it means that you were following him, not with confidence, not really as a true follower, but you were following him because you were a member of his team. And so now that the responsibility has been trusted on your shoulders, you are now having to step into his shoes, um, and so you wouldn't do certain things, or you would not run the operation the way he was doing, because you refused to learn certain things from him. If I got that description right, Kenneth, then clearly that is not a true successor. You see, the successor is not a true successor, is not just somebody who takes over from you. A true successor is somebody you prepared, all right, who bought into you, who bought into what you stand for, who was deliberate, about following you, so that he or she could imbibe or develop or replicate character attributes, that you have. All right? That is what leadership is about. And that's a true successor. The successor is not because I left and then one of my team members was asked to take over. Okay? That's not that's not succession. Succession is the person who is taking over. What did the person learn from me? All right? How well did the person commit to following me? All right? True following involves commitment. It involves a committed pursuit, of the leader. And I hope you do get to, take the Smart Leader program. You will see where we deal with those issues there. And we even talk about when are your people ripe? When do you think it is right for you to set them up to take over from you and all of that? So that's it. I see Dr. Akonji's hand. So Kenneth, you can speak after Dr. Akonji has spoken. I'm not sure if I got what you were drawing attention to, right? But that's my understanding of it. Doctor, please, you have the floor.
Okay, maybe we should finish with Kenneth so that we get Kenneth to probably accept.
Hello, ma, please go ahead. You have the floor. I hope you can hear me.
Kenneth. Is Kenneth taking on? Please.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, man. My question. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Okay, maybe we should finish with Kenneth so that we get Kenneth to probably accept.
Hello, ma, please go ahead. You have the floor. I hope you can hear me. Okay, all right.
Kenneth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, man. My question. Hello, sir.
Yeah, yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Kenneth, so that we get Kenneth.
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to sort out.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Matt. My question.
Yes, go ahead. Please go ahead. Go ahead. Hello, can you?
Hello.
Go ahead,
Hello.
Kenneth. Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening, sir.
Yes.
My question, you've clearly explained the point I was trying to make.
Yes.
I just said that means that the question I want to ask, following from that, the question I will want to ask, sir, if
Yes.
that is the case in terms of leadership,
Yes.
that means that it's going to be an intentional thing, not just because by coincidence you work as a team. Then the leader in question has to be deliberate about the leadership, trying to form a successor. So I think that's what it should look like.
Yes, you are right. I mean, that's why leadership is an intentional thing. It's not just that, you are head of department. If you are head of department, you are head of department for a reason. You are head of department or head of group as a leader. And as long as you understand that, and you understand that you are not head of department just in order for you to get results, that you are head of department because there are people who are under you and those people need to be developed. Okay, you are meant to work with those people to get results. In the process, those people must be developed, and you must do that with the intention that someday when you are leaving that place, you will have somebody that you can confidently say, this person, I recommend him, or these people, any of these people, I recommend them. They can take over from me. They have what it takes. I'm even sure they can do better than me. That has to be intentional. If so you come understanding that you have a job to do on the people before you leave. And so also there is a sense of urgency that comes with that function, because you don't know if you're going to leave tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to be there for 5 years. Some companies already have policies. When they put you in a department, you probably won't spend more than 2 years or more than 3 years. They move you elsewhere. Now, so you must hit the ground running with the understanding that your job is to work with your people. And I'm deliberate about that. I'm not saying to use your people, because some people will say to use your people to get results. No, you don't use your people. You work with your people in order to get the results that the company expects of you. And by the way, the company expects that in the process you develop your people so that they can take, they can stand in for you when you're not there, so that the good job that you have done can continue. All right. And so that also you can create capacity that the company can take advantage of. Because guess what? If I am able to, develop the people that I work with, then the company can move me to a higher level, to a higher responsibility. And they can take, the people that I have developed and put them to replace me. So guess what? The company has greater capacity to do better, because as we're doing leadership, we're accomplishing the core aspect of what that responsibility is, which is developing the capacity of the people, to develop others to get results. And that's how it continues. So leadership is intentional. It is intentional.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, Dr. Ma.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. It is well structured the way you have explained it, and that is how it works. I just want to fly a kite. Okay. I believe that a successor, a humble leader that is able to pass the humility to a successor, will not fall into the trap of success. If the successor is humble, looking at his leadership and is taking the baton of work from him,
Yes.
if he has to be taken out of that process.
Yes.
If he's humble, he will not fall into all the traps of success that you have identified this evening. But there's one thing that I think is missing in the structure of most organizations.
Yes.
It happened below the line, below the leadership line, but it
Yes.
never happened at the leadership level, what they call 360 degrees assessment. Nobody assessed the CEO. Nobody, you know, you just believe that the CEO is the leader and is impacting. Whereas there are some, if you do 360, you can see a cleaner that is very used to cleaning his room, assessing him at his level, what they can see him as a leader. But that doesn't happen in most organizations. I may be wrong, but that is my impression. If that is true, I think we should begin to see that the CEO himself is assessed 360 degrees, not a straight line assessment from the chairman of the board to the CEO of the level of the executive directors to CEO. No, it has to be 360 because the director or the CEO himself interacts with cleaners, the lowest of the organization. I don't know whether I'm making sense.
Yes, I understand your point clearly. Are you done, ma'am?
Yeah, I want to put down my hand and it's not going down.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I'm going to start from where you said, from the point you made that you were flying a kite. I had that very clearly, that you were flying a kite. So I want to fly the kite with you. You know, I have a difference in opinion when it comes to these so-called 360-degree appraisal. And I argue that a 360 degrees, quite frankly, is not really relevant for purposes of assessing a leader. Now, why is it not relevant? If you use the case of the MD or the CEO, yes, the CEO interacts with a cleaner, but the cleaner is not a direct report to the CEO. The cleaner, there is no cleaner that will be reporting to the CEO directly. They will be reporting to somebody else. So their interaction with the MD is only incidental. To that extent, what is relevant between the CEO and the cleaner is just the interpersonal relationship that the CEO demonstrates towards the cleaner. Now, and that has less to do with the substance of leadership that is thrust on the shoulders of the CEO. Why? Because the CEO has direct reports. The substantial interaction, the work that the CEO has to do is more with his direct reports. His direct reports have direct reports. The direct reports of the direct reports have direct reports. So each one, as a leader, focuses primarily on the people that you have direct responsibility for. Why would you then be asking a cleaner, what kind of appraisal will the cleaner do, other than to say how I interact with them? How does that affect the job that I'm supposed to do, which is to develop my direct reports, to be able to take over from me and to do better than, I am doing? So I that's my, issue, that the truth is that, yes, you may say that those direct reports, because notice that in the Smart Leader program, one of the things that we said is that the leader must make clear what he has to offer those who are following. The leader must make clear where he is taking the followers. The leader must hold himself out to the followers for purposes of accountability. Because if I don't know what to expect from you, if I don't know the promise you have made to me, if I don't know where you and I are going, since it's a journey, how do I know whether you fulfilled your part of the bargain? So, to that extent, I can provide some feedback to you about the impact that you are making on me. But that is within the context of our very clearly established terms of engagement. Now, it can be so with any other person that is incidental to the CEO. Now, those who are cleaners are reporting directly to somebody. If they are to give a feedback, they should give feedback on the person they are reporting to, because the person they are reporting to, the person's function is more related to what they are doing. Their development is going to be towards, that kind of, the focus of the work of that person. All right? Not in terms of the cleaner is not being developed to become a CEO tomorrow, at least not immediately. But the cleaner, under their own supervision, can become a supervisor of cleaners. From there, can become, head of facilities management and stuff like that. You can see that that's their path. Ultimately, they may have a head who is reporting directly to CEO as one of the direct reports. Say, for example, executive director or general manager in charge of administration. Okay? Now, that kind of person, if you were talking about a true 360, is the kind of person you'd expect a feedback from, in relation to whatever the CEO is doing. Because that person also comes under the purview, the immediate supervision purview of the MD. And that person, to that extent, can also be a candidate for becoming, for consideration as the CEO. So this is so I'm seeing the issue of, you have used the cleaner can help to identify the CEO's interpersonal relationship. Yeah, but I understand. That's why I singled out that part, that's as best as that person may be able to do, but it can be the substantive basis for assessing, the work that the CEO is doing, because because they are just too far away. I guess the point I'm making is that if you must keep feedback, you should get it from people who are direct reports, because your responsibility as a leader is more over your direct reports. It's not over people that you don't control. I can't be an example, for example, to people outside my immediate area of, operation. I can't even be seeking to impact. Suppose you were reporting to me, and you have your own staff. I can't be seeking to make a direct impact on your staff. I must be seeking to make a direct impact on you, because that is the way that I would make an impact on your staff. So if somebody who really wants to, if I need feedback, I should get it from you, not from your staff. Because your staff don't even have clarity about the terms of engagement between yourself and myself. In the same way that I also, as a CEO, do not have clarity about the terms of engagement between you and each of your staff. But I can only expect that if I'm doing my job well, the terms of engagement between you and I will influence your terms of engagement with your staff. Because that means that the impact that I'm seeking to have on you, you are cascading it downwards, and that's how it will go down. That's how leadership influences the entire, organization. That's how leadership influences the entire organization. My view also is that we need to be very cautious about. I've never been a fan, by the way, of the 360 degrees, because for me, there are a lot of abuses. Is fraught with a lot of abuses, including, for example, that people don't. It takes a lot. People don't like to hear the truth, and some leaders can't tell the truth. They are not bold enough to tell the truth. Some will not tell the truth precisely because of that 360-degree evaluation, because they know that there are subordinates who can't handle the truth. When the time comes for them to feel that pressure, the subordinates would take their pound of flesh. And so they play safe, and in reality, I mean, let's face it, why should a subordinate, appraise their leader? Why? Other than within the context of, understanding that this is what the leader is supposed to do. That's my concern. Those are my concerns. Notice that I said I was, you wanted to fly a kite, so I'm also flying a kite along those lines to provoke, some thoughts. But we can have contributions, from the floor. I see Mr. Abu has joined us, and Chiso also has joined us, and Kenneth is still with us, and they may be interested in. They may want to add to that discussion. So, Mr. Abu, I don't know if you have anything to say. You are welcome, and Chiso, you are welcome as well. And you must have listened to our discussion. We've been talking about. I'm sure you were around. You heard when Doctor raised her issue. All right, so, all right, Chiso says nothing for now. Let me see. Okay, Kenneth has said something here. Where can we actually expect to see a leader? Knowing clearly most senior executives are merely positional. Should we then use it as a yardstick for defining leadership, and also knowing that leadership is all about influence? From your explanation, where can you actually expect to see a leader? Well, I mean, the truth is that there are leaders and there are leaders. Even those your executives are leaders, they may just not be doing leadership the way it should be done. And part of that is not being intentional, or not being conscious of their role and what is expected of their role. One of the things that we discussed a couple of sessions ago was the fact that you could have technical skills, but it doesn't necessarily make you a leader. The other thing that we have found is that, yes, especially professionals, we get promoted, over time. So we get, for example, into a bank, or we get into a company, and we come in as low as greenhorns, and we start from low levels, and we get promoted every 2 years, every 3 years, and before you know it, we are holding some very significant positions. Yet we have never been, taught how to do leadership, or the subject of leadership has never been on the cards. But we are running our departments anyway, and so some of us now believe erroneously that we're leaders, but we're sitting in a position of leadership, but we're not doing leadership as it ought to be done. And therefore, maybe that's why some people like to distinguish between managers and leaders. So those people just focus on how to get their results, and that's all that concerns them. And they use their people, and they are not mindful whether their people develop, all right, as they work with them. And indeed, they don't even have a good sense of what kind of development they want to see in their people, and the people that they work with. So that's part of the challenges, Kenneth, that you have with many senior people who are holding positions, and they are not leaders in the true sense of what leadership entails, but they are leaders in the sense that they are holding positions and they have people reporting to them, and they focus, largely on numbers and on themselves and how they can, further grow to the next level. And unfortunately, those institutions where we have them, they are shortchanged to that extent. They are shortchanged to that extent. That's what you find. One of the easiest ways of identifying true leaders is just to use the kind of explanations that we have given. A true leader is interested primarily in the development of the people reporting to him. And a true leader, even when they have a team, they maintain a leadership relationship, leader-follower relationship with every member of the team. They don't regard their team as I'm leading a team. They understand that leadership involves a personal relationship between the leader and each member of the team. And in the conduct of their business, what they do is that they are focused on ensuring that in the quest for results, in the quest to achieve great performance, that their people are developed. So for such leaders, the people do not, they never leave their people the same. All right, they make an impact on their people, but specifically, they build character into their people, and through character, they empower their people, to be performers. All right, and they develop people who are able to do good work when they are not around, or when such people move on to other responsibilities. Hopefully that's a good guide, that you can use. Incidentally, one of us had raised that issue also sometime. In fact, it was this same issue, if I remember correctly. I think it was Onyinyechi Godwin. She's not with us, this evening. And I recall that she, after going through one or two of the instructional videos for the Smart Leader program, she had that concern. I think the way she put it was, how do you get your leader to be intentional about developing you? That she's never met one, and she understands that this is very critical. So that's the reason why we really need to be to focus on developing this capacity. All right, I still, Dr. Akonjis, but in reality, the subject is still a pointer to personality of of leadership. All right, Ma. I'll just take note of that. Yeah, it's a pointer to personality of leadership. But maybe we'll discuss this further. I think it is where we are talking essentially about the issue of relevance, number one, and we're also talking about the issue of significance. Something may appear relevant or not, but even if it appears relevant, is it significant enough? Given what the totality of the responsibility of and the focus of the CEO represents. So we can still really flog this issue more. And I think perhaps if we have the opportunity of doing that next time, I can draw out a number of other things for you to consider. Well, just to further elaborate on my own convictions along those lines. And also that I'm at EMED, we nurture leaders on the basis of truth. And,
Yes,
and
I know.
That our anchor, truth, is what we find in the Word of God. And I'm
Yes.
yet to find a place where any of the disciples was appraising Jesus.
They did. They did. I will bring references for you next week.
Please
They
bring the references.
It was Jesus who quietened them. They did.
No, they asked questions. They asked questions. They couldn't have done it nice. They didn't do an appraisal. They asked questions, and many times he even provoked them by asking them questions. But I'm interested in. You can come please with the scriptures. Let's compare.
That will be one-on-one, not for this platform.
Well, I mean, if we come to the platform and the people do not mind, I mean, then we share. It's true. We share because that is what it is. One of the things that we're careful to do, that I am particularly careful to do, is that I mean, Ma, you are very experienced in a lot of these things, and I always am careful not to allow my 30 years plus experience, handling leadership at different levels from very early ages, to get in the way of the truth. And whatever I cannot establish, from the Word of God, I don't teach. That's the fine line that I walk. And the interesting thing is that I'm also a research person. So you and I know what research entails, and so we know the issues of theories and all of that, and so they help us, to think as a basis for examining what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. But one of the things that practice also does is that it gets you to see that many things that we teach in practice, they are completely wrong. I have 1,001 experiences, especially in banking. I mean, being in the bank for over 20 years, there are things we teach that I dare not teach anybody that today. And they are worsening, by the way, in the banks, and people are teaching that, and those things are not right. So, we have to be careful. We can't, it's not everything. I mean, research, we can write anything as long as you can defend it. If people write papers, they become professors, not because
Yes.
what they have written is correct, but so I think the advantage that we have is that, we have something also that we can refer to, that has proven itself many times over. 2,000 years plus is not a joke. If something has remained true for that period and we're still proving it, we're seeing it in our experience, then I'd rather hold on to that than hold on to experience. So, but I'm on the lookout for that. And somebody has said on the platform that they don't mind. So, so next week we will please bring the scriptures, and I will bring my Bible as well. My Bible is always around the corner anyway. So, wow, I hope it's been a great time. Again, we hope that going forward more people will be able to join us. But the richness of our discussions is not in the number of people. I think it's um, so as we're trying to increase the number, we still we still we still enjoy our session. So once again, I'd like to appreciate everyone who has taken time to join us this evening. I believe the session has been worth your while. Incidentally, earlier today, I attended the fellowship award ceremony of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. And I saw one of our colleagues who normally attends this session, Mr. Akiode. Some of us may remember him. In fact, he was the one that even came to meet me because I couldn't. Faces are covered on this on this, but at least he was able to recognize me and he came to introduce himself. I said, "Ah, great! It was nice meeting you." I think he was one of the people awarded FCIB. So we will use this opportunity also to congratulate him, and I'm sure by next week he will join us. So we'll have the opportunity to celebrate him once more. So once again, thank you very much um, for joining this evening, and look forward to seeing you again next week, Saturday, by the grace of God. Kenneth, I think you should get on the program so that you can see what it entails. It will address quite a number of the concerns that you have raised. All right. Okay, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and have a wonderful um, week beginning from tomorrow. God bless you.
Bless you too. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night, ma.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir. Good night, Chiso. And good night, Kenneth. Good night.